But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's
never been seen by a human being.
The best is yet to come.
This is indeed a movie set. This is indeed a fabricated past. Now, the deeper implications of this are very, very chilling, guys.
Houston, we have a call.
We destroyed that technology.
People should not be walking around with masks.
That stuff is flat.
There's your flu last year. Here's your flu this year.
Literally doesn't even exist. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hibbeler Effect. Thank you for joining us last week, and thank you to my guest, Eddie Bravo. That was a great conversation. If you did not see the full conversation, head over to Rockfin now. We got some big boy topics we talked about. Obviously, it wasn't on the YouTube version, but I'm glad I've been getting a good receptive audience telling me, hey, you know, thanks for these free previews. A lot of Rockfin premium shows, they would never do that. So I'm glad you like that I do that. I'm glad that I can deliver that to you, and I always will. I always try to give a free version of something at some point, especially all the hard work I put into the show, all the hours of editing, all the post-production, everything I try to do to make it the best show possible, which it can only get better, to be honest. But I do appreciate anyone coming over to Rockfin to support and help this show keep going and getting guests on that we want to hear. I read a lot of the comments last week, and actually last couple of weeks. Every time Tartaria is brought up, there's this huge response I see of like, dude, thank you. This is golden. You brought up Tartaria. Thank you. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, maybe the Rockfin audience is maybe getting on board with this now. So I decided today to make sure that I got someone maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you have, but everyone knows John Levi. People are now knowing Dr. Norco. There's other people involved, but I'll tell you, there's one man that woke me up to this, and that's Flat Earth British, aka Martin Liedtke, over in Wales. He is someone that I've been watching for a very long time. My buddy Johnny, Gian Papa, you've seen him in Level. He'll be in Level with me too. It's one of those things where he started watching that, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on? I just remember a strong British accent, and I'm like, who is this? What are we watching? And like, what are these buildings? Like, what is going on? And Johnny filled me in years ago, and it was all Martin. And I just went home and watched, and I'm just blown away. And the way he breaks down photos and breaks everything down. So I thought today was the perfect opportunity to bring in a Tartarian expert. And again, someone maybe you haven't heard of. You need to hear of him. He's been on YouTube doing his thing for a long time. He's one of the OGs of this movement, and he's written books on this, guys. He's an author. He's got his own show. This is what he does. Now, yes, he's a flat earther, and yes, he's talked about that for many years as well. But this is his main road, and he has he's an expert. Let's put it that way. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we will have Martin Liedtke. So I hope that you guys join us for this one, and I hope you're excited. We're going to go over some really, really good stuff. And then I'll give a nice size preview of this for YouTube, and then we're going to put it over to Rockfin. So, but I will give a nice sample of this show. It's going to be a good one. And we'll see you soon, guys. Be right back.
I mean, it's your turn.
I think I'm going to solve it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, the Earth looks pretty flat to me.
Yeah, that's it.
With every rabbit hole, the truth is placed directly in front of you, yet it is up to you to find it. What is truth? Well, it purifies your soul. The truth can set you free. And for the millions of truthers walking every corner of our earth, I beg of you to walk with us. There's much more to life than we were told. This world is not what you think it is. You have been lied to on a massive scale. For the future of mankind, it's about time you started to pay attention.
So this idea that they go, oh, I see the curvature of the Earth, and no, you don't. You don't. I'm sorry.
The vehicle has exploded.
We just hope you strap yourselves in tight for this ride.
Yeah, I just stopped by because, are you aware of that there's a rumor on the internet
Vic, did something strange happen then? Something is wrong.
We have a problem.
The problem is that society blindly accepts the pseudoscience narrative, but regardless of their propaganda or their agenda, they know that it's all coming to an end.
See the curvature of the Earth?
That's a fisheye lens, dude.
Level with me. Coming April 22nd. Visit levelwithmefilm.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Hibbeler Effect, ladies and gentlemen. We have the great legend, Martin Liedtke. He was on Level-Headed Podcast before. I know you guys remember him. You guys have blown me up to get him back. He is back. Welcome to the show, Flat Earth British. Martin Liedtke, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sean, for the invite. Double flat thumbs.
Flat thumbs as always, man. I want to tell my audience this guy is an OG in Tartarian and false history research, the alternative history guy. He's my guy, and I've been watching him for a long, long time. He's the one that got me involved into Tartaria. John Levi and everyone else came after because I was watching Martin for years and blown away. And we're going to blow you away on this show here. Martin, real quick, what got you into Tartaria?
I would say the chronology and the city where I live, having just anomalous architecture. Everything, the whole world, no matter which city you're in, seems to just arrived in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
All the buildings like 1876, 1888, 1890. It's like, well, so where was all the world before then? And all we've got of that old world is the Gothic churches, the cathedrals, which we have now established in our research. These are sound machines, healing centers, if you like, which create a vibrational quality through their what were church organs, but they were something else originally.
And I've been talking about that for a while, and I really want to get into that today because it's hard to explain that to people. Like I have like this overall knowledge of what those were and how, and people are so intrigued by that, but it's like I can't break it down like you can, you know. So that'd be something I'd love to get into because I see them everywhere, and now in my mind I go, dude, that makes so much more sense that they would use it for that. And then whatever those sticks, those are called on top of the building, where
Antiqua Tech,
where the airships would land. I'm like, oh, this whole thing is there to show the world, and we're not taught this at all in school. That's a huge red flag, man. That's where it's like, that's where it got scary for me, where I was like, wait, I've never even heard of these airships or anything like this in my whole life. So that means there's something to it. And once you started to break those down in those earlier videos, I was blown away. I was sold instantly because, like you said, you know, we've been lied to about the Earth. This can't be too far away from that in terms of like, oh my God, did they really lie? It's like, yeah, they did. Now, to my audience, you know, I don't believe in this false history of a Western and, you know, they went into the middle of the street and draw 3, 2, 1, turn, shoot. That to me, tell me if I'm right or wrong, Martin, that was created out of thin air and it was, right?
The
okay.
evidence does not support that at all. You know, considering the Wild West, I'll give you an example. If you look at the photography of San Francisco prior to the earthquake of 1906, this is a Victorian city. Queen Victoria is still alive. And this city has skyscrapers and is a highly advanced civilization. When we're supposed to be having a gunfight to the OK Corral in the 1880s, this civilization is being built. The cities are massive, big, modern cities, okay? But the movies, they show you, you know, the saloon and wars. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if any of the theaters of war are anything like what they taught us in the history books, okay? Including the American Civil War. You know, the idea of two same nationality, really, peoples standing 100 yards away from one another at point blank range and shooting at one another and see how many die. It seems like that's going to be, you know, they're going to have to be really persuasive to make you do that, because that's suicide, isn't it? So I don't think any of these Napoleonic size battles where 100,000 people, the evidence doesn't support it. Battle of Antietam, all of them tens of thousands supposed to have died in the photographic record, 1 or 2 people in a field, and the photographer says that he put them there to set up the photograph. Guards, and they're a Scotsman. And the same for Gettysburg, the evidence to support it. So with that theatre of war going forward, even the American Revolutionary War, the War of Independence, the evidence doesn't support it. It seems like it was a really short affair. It didn't happen long at all. And then it's all over with. And then it's just like, so England's not in, nothing to do with America anymore, but New England is still New England. You just had a war with them. Okay. What's going on there? It's like calling, after we've had a war with Germany, calling, a county in England, New Germany. I don't think they were going to do that.
Doesn't make sense either way.
Yeah. So they're all theatres of war. The whole paradigm is Hegelian dialectics, isn't it? And we've just, we suffer one after the other, and it's a bombardment on humanity. Now, the history, I do believe, is as important as the flat earth. So not only they lied about, what we're standing on and the creation itself and the true nature of reality, then if we don't know about our true heritage and where we came from, then we're not going to know how important and how truly powerful we really are.
Yeah, and how easy is it to really control. It's so much easier, guys, to control a population, to control the masses. If you told them, as the rulers, you told them, this is where you live, with a lot of limitations in there, right? This is where you live, and this is your history. This is who came before you. You guys came from a bunch of idiots that just rode on horses and didn't have any clue on how to do anything in life. There was no cars. Yeah. There was no, they didn't even know how to plug stuff in their wall. Like, what's electricity? I don't know. We have to wait till, later on to figure this out. This was all figured out, guys. But the difference is, in my opinion, there was free energy. I'm sure water was free. They had a civilization. And by the way, you could share the screen whenever you need to, Martin. But they had a civilization back then that would laugh at us now. Put it that way. This is my opinion, but they had the craziest shit back in the day, and that's why you don't know about it. So anyone lost and confused so far in this episode, like, well, what's his guest talking about, or what are we doing here? Where'd you come from? Who was before you? Who was here 150 years ago? What was happening? If you could go back in time, all the rumors of giants and this, especially with the truth community, we all hear about it. Oh. Now we're going to see some shit. What are we looking at?
I really do think giants, though, are, definitely a thing that we did coincide. I've got some evidence here that I could show you.
I always love those ones with the big stairs. You can't deny those.
Yeah, I got plenty of that stuff. So yeah, use an old Renaissance picture, and you can see this pillar, which is known in antiquity, and there it is in the modern day. And you can see there's a definite height difference between peoples. I don't think it's perspective of the artist. He managed to get everything else right together. So yeah, superior quality architecture that is not built in the modern day. They cannot repeat this sort of architecture.
And does anyone know what this stuff's made out of? I hear it all the time, and everybody's like, I don't know, stone or something. Like, what is it?
No. What you find is most of it is red brick covering, and it's covered with a thick layer of mortar, or mortor, T-O-R, like the Taurus field. Oh, wow. And mort is the word for death. Okay, so they have covered up this civilization, and originally, all of these buildings here, this is in Brussels, but this is a perfect example of Antiqua Tech. And what you see is on top of these buildings, there's a lot of statues. They're not going to have any quality apart from aesthetic quality. Yeah. So they are adaptations. They came along later. Also the coverings, these gold bits that you can see, and all of these reliefs are all Phoenician style classical reliefs. They cover statues on everything out of vanity, but originally it was more wholesome, more holistic, the world that came before us.
Oh, look at this beauty.
Yeah.
So again, let me just say one more thing to my audience, the ones that have no idea what's going on right now, like lost in what's Tartaria, what's this, what are we showing? Look at this building. Let's just keep it layman's for 1 minute. Look at this fucking building. Who built this building and why? That's what you have to ask yourself. And how did this come before us? How are little guys on horse and buggy not even having a clue on anything in life? Because remember, our ancestors are supposed to be dumb and stupid, right? So how are they building this, and why can't this be built today? And why are these doors designed this way when average human 6 foot at the most back then. I mean, let's just call it 5'11" is average human being. Why are these doors being built? Sorry, Martin, I'm not trying to hijack it. I'm just trying to
that's
say
right.
my audience, let's be real here and put your thinking caps on. Go ahead, Martin.
Okay. Well, what you find with this civilization that went before us is they use divine principles in building and perfect symmetry. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is obviously a Gothic castle feel, but it's actually in Quebec. So, but what you find, massive doors, high windows, bigger than, can't exactly lift your heads up and look out of a window if it's 12 foot in the air. So it seems that with the lofty ceilings as well, that this place was occupied by bigger people as well in the past. But all the buildings that are built in the last, say, 70 years, maybe a bit more, have no divine principles. It's just bog standard materials. It's glass, it's steel, and it's just nothing. They're dead soul buildings. These buildings, because they're built on the same model actually of what we live in, so it's the Four Angels Taurus technology. These would have been living buildings. These would have had soul. You would have felt them walking into them. And this Greco-Romano feel that is everywhere in the world is just that. To me, Rome is now. Okay, what they call Rome, I call Phoenicia. Okay, I think the Rome were they were the little guy. Okay, in Phoenicia, when the Phoenicians came, they occupied Rome, Londinium, way before the Romans came here. They had a civilization up and running. But these buildings here, this is not just for aesthetic, pleasing to the eye. All of these little knobbly bits that you see, and all of this, belfry towers are all for energy gathering. Okay, it just grabs it out of the ether. I posted last night. They had literal cars in the 1930s that run on free energy. They just extracted ether out of the realm. Or ether.
So basically, they're just tapping into the natural electricity in the sky, right? The ether.
There would have been a lot more of it post reset, though. In my narrative, or in this narrative, we think that there was Noah's flood as little as possibly only 500 years ago. Okay. And we think that we are a post-apocalyptic society, although we are not the original inhabitants. A lot of us here do not feel like we belong. Yeah. We're not really, we don't belong here. Okay. You go out, it's too cold. You can't cope. If you go out, it's too hot. You can't cope. Okay. You get sunburned. It's sort of screaming that we're not really designed for this environment.
Can you show us any of these older things that are gone now in terms of airships, in terms of just the technology they were, because again, I've covered a lot of Tartarian stuff, and Eddie always on Eddie's show, he loves to do Tartaria. But that's one thing that I feel like we never really talk about, even on his show, are these old airships, these things that I look at today and go, well, why don't we have that? Number one, why don't we have this technology anymore? Maybe you can answer that. And number two, it's, why don't no one knows about it? If I went to my neighbor and started talking about it, they'd be like, what are you talking about?
Okay, well, the Hindenburg obviously got rid of the airships. But before then, airships, that was the way they were traveling. You could literally drop off from work outside of the window where you lived, which is why they all got these verandas and belfry towers, okay, that would just basically drop you off outside your house. Also, pneumatic trains, they were used as well before steam railway, or even, the diesels of today. Before then, originally they were pneumatic. They were using compressed air to shoot people around from New York to Chicago. They were using compressed air.
Yeah, and so here's an impression of that's an airship, right? So these are the airships. Now, obviously, these are the impressions of it, but there are some. Are they rumored real photographs of airships, or are they real photographs of airships?
I can show you. Now, let me just stop sharing screen.
No worries.
There's basically a lot of evidence that they were just using Zeppelins, Graf Spee Zeppelin as well, to just moor and dock again on the top of the Empire State Building. Also ones in LA, Seattle. So they show you that they were docking stations on top of on top of skyscrapers.
Yeah, what are those antennas called that are pulling out of the ether? Is that is that the same thing they were landing on, or are those two separate?
No, they would have had free energy technology up there. Okay. But the gantry itself, they had on a lot of skyscrapers, and towers that you get on like old tops of classical buildings. They've got no bell.
Yeah, I mean, you can still see them now. Obviously, there's still some there.
Yeah.
I even saw some in L.A. Believe it or not. So
yeah, sure,
crazy.
So yeah, but like the psyop with the Hindenburg made it unfavorable to people to actually travel by airship anymore, even though it was the safest and the most sensible, just like with the free energy, isn't it?
And that's what I say to people. Why would they hide this from us as children? Why would they not teach us this cool now this is the real shit, guys. Why would they not teach us this, that this is how our ancestors traveled? No, they want you to think horse and buggy and just your ancestors were stupid. It's like, look at this technology, and why are we not using this today?
I think there was more to it as well, because for this reason, I think that it kills heliocentrism or their spin. Because what you got to imagine is the Graf Spee Zeppelin takes off from Munich, and it flies apparently, against the supposed turn of the Earth, which is supposed to be in an easterly direction whilst it's traveling west. Okay.
Now, is this Germany? Was that Germany's plane? And how long ago was that last one?
This was in 1930, but the Americans, they had an expansive fleet of their own airships that they were rolling out, and they were docking them on the top of the Empire State Building.
So whose ship is this in the sky here? So that's Germany's airship cruising.
Yeah, over New York, because apparently up until the advent of World War II, America had zero problems with landing any planes or any balloons. There was no threat of any war between America and Germany at that period. So
now look at these guys. These are. I mean, think what you want. These are legit. These were in the sky for a long time.
They're huge. They're absolutely huge. They are the best way to fly because it's safe. They go over the Atlantic at quite a low elevation, so it's not up in the clouds or anything. It's quite low, and it's the safest mode of transport you could imagine. These things were everywhere. We imagined Tartaria to be just like this. These structures are just, like you say, insanely big to be built by horse and buggy, the materials. But what is not supported in the evidence of the photographic record is the amount of population, because what we find is around the 1850s, there is nobody around.
That's what I mean. That's why when people want to laugh at, a reset, or there was a flood, or there was this, it's like, where was everybody at then? And I saw that infamous photo of San Francisco where it's like, it's widened out and there's just no one in sight. There's no one there. So
they were everywhere. So this is the transport. We think that these towers, they're all over antiquity, were originally landing platforms because the wind blows a balloon around. So they just attach the nose, and then, basically drop people off to the destination where they need them. They were using the balloons in invasions in the past. This is apparently an invasion planned for Britain during Napoleonic Wars. And as you can see, there's already a channel tunnel there. They didn't just dig that. Wow. And they're marching an entire army under the English Channel. You see a star fort there on the corner. And they're just launching armadas of people using hot air balloons, which is what they've been doing all along. Okay.
And now I'll say this about it, because Dave Weiss, as you know, he's very vocal about NASA, and some of the rockets that are going up are actually hot air balloons. Have you ever heard about this, Martin, yet?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, I've known about it all along.
Well, there you go. It just makes me feel like they took the technology and did something else with it. At least they didn't throw it away. They fake rocket launch. They just act like a rocket's going up. It's a hot air balloon.
I should have the picture here. It's the first ever satellite the NASA ever launched. Was a giant balloon.
Well, they're all on balloons, and
I think I got a
that's
picture
obvious,
of it. But yeah, it's just it's obvious that they're just loom balloons. But well, what we conceived was this: it was a Tesla type technology, so everything was running on wireless, everything was running on free energy. Planes could have been flown without any fuel source, but just run wirelessly by Tesla towers. And directed battles could have been, run that way by like a NORAD type situation.
So is this all electrostatics?
Yeah, sure. It's all electrostagence. This won't even be that heavy. These planes that you see land or take off, these jumbo jets, there's something else going on with them. They're seemingly just doing one speed, but they're just really slow and just seemingly just hanging in the air. And you're just wondering, how is that even creating any lift? Because a plane works on basically fluid dynamics, exactly the same way as a sail ship works. So you try to wonder, how is it creating that lift? I really do think there's other technologies going on with planes than has been for a while. But yeah, same with free energy. You can't fit the meters, so people can't really pay can't pay for free energy if it's free by the nature of. So they just created the Tesla and Edison dialectic for everyone to follow, when really the civilization that went before us was free energy, this sort of transport to get everyone around. These giant towers are all over antiquity.
And let's be real about it. Back then, there was giants. Let's not beat around the bush with it. There was giants walking around side by side with us. The question is, where did we merge, and where'd the separation take place at this point? It's like, well, no one really has a definite answer, but it's one of those things where, people want to fantasize about little gray men with bug eyes and call them aliens without any fucking evidence. But here's some evidence of we lived side by side with giants, and oh yeah, conspiracy. It's like, who built this door and who is it for?
Well, it's the decoration as well. I seen some evidence when I visited the Czech Republic last year in an ancient city. The stuff just looked 3D printed. It was layers and layers and layers. My son does 3D printing. I've seen this process, but it's just to think that the monks with copper chisels, just took it upon themselves to make these massive structures using the most complicated mathematics you could ever imagine. I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah, sorry guys, it wasn't Clint Eastwood and his type of people making this. Okay, there wasn't a bunch of Western saddles riding in and on horses and being like, "Hey, let's figure out this new technology." Yay, yeehaw! No, that didn't happen. And the reason they paint that picture of our history is to make us feel more worthy, to make us feel more smart, to make us feel like our government is leading us in the right direction of technology and science, when it's completely reversed.
Look, it's the whole thing is a scaremongering tactic. They tell us that we're one way when people instinctively feel that they're not that way. They tell us, they used to have gladiatorial processes in the Colosseum where they fed Christians to the lions, and men used to stab one another, stabby, and also in the days of knights and chivalry, you've got to go and kill a dragon to win the maiden, a bit of duels or stabby, and this is how we are. But the evidence doesn't support that. Okay, in the Vietnam War, what was it? 8 out of 10 people shot their first shot in the air because they didn't actually want to kill anyone. Nobody wants to actually do that shit anyway, especially for the man. When they get down to it, they're like, actually, I don't think I want to be bullied into doing this anymore. So inherently, people are like, well, they seem really all right. They just seems like they're my brother. So people get really hurt. Okay, especially when they got to kill their brother man for somebody else. So I don't think we're inherently like that. I think they tell us that we're like that, and I think the theaters of war are just storybooks because, not the evidence which I've got. And I've known people that were in the war. My mother lived through the war, and it's, you don't even know who's dropping bombs on you. In the modern day narratives, you've got all of this happening with the Ukraine, China, Russia, America. They've all got exactly the same identical architecture and political setup. They're all exactly the same because they're all on the high table. They are all in it together. It's a big club and you ain't in it. They're all on the phone at night. How's it going? They're broskies. It's just.
So, in your opinion, who are these people in this shot here? Are these
Italians.
the new age people that are coming into?
Okay, no.
Yeah.
So post reset, okay, what we find is, I'll show you a bit of footage in a second, which will blow your mind, on the viewers, is they arrive and everyone is like, you know, first of all, it's the Victorian era. So victory over what exactly? So it's victory over this civilization, and everybody is dressed in black because they're mourning. And they say to you in English, good morning. Yeah. Good morning. Why? What we mourning? Mourning is when you're like, you know, grieving over the death of something. Or we start our day with that. So this is a hijacked civilization. You know, the best evidence that I could possibly present is, I posted some of that evidence last night, but it is pretty mind-blowing, is of actually San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco is a big one. There's a lot of photographs that have
yeah, but it doesn't make no sense. It's weird, it's creepy, and there's something else clearly going on. When I was in that show with John Levy, he suggested that they've switched it around and the films we're looking at from an older time, an older world that is lost to us now. But what you find is they've seemed to have wiped out cities off the face of the earth. As crazy and weird as that all sounds, this seems to be the case. Okay. And then new populations arrive, which sounds crazy again, but the evidence really does support it. So what we got here, we've already established with this film of Market Street in April 1916, okay, is what we've established, is this is set up. These cars, they're going round in circles. People are making suicidal movements, and people are expecting the camera to come before it arrives, proving that this is a setup scene, a movie.
I've always said that, man. Every time I see this stuff, I go, this looks like action. Quiet on the set.
There's a few further on up on the right-hand side. They're literally standing there waiting for it, watching it to come down. There's so many giveaways. I've watched this maybe 100 times, and there is so much wrong with it. The way they're circling, see that car, it just goes round, it'll go past again now in a minute. It's the impression of there being more cars. This one turning round, he's going to come round, you'll see him again now in a minute. Wow. So it's all set up. This guy, would he really do that suicidal walk in front of an oncoming tram?
No, and that's what I say. I go, wait, are they trying to make us look stupid?
Baby, they're trying to make us look stupid. Even the last tram is number 33. Everything is sort of coded with this. But the weird thing is these two brothers, they photographed this, and it's the best quality HD you could ever get, okay? So there's no other city in antiquity that has been covered so well as San Francisco. So weirdly, right, so is this, okay, everything's up and running on April the 6th. This is 2 days later. 2 days later. So there from this, okay, 2 days later, it's this. It's Armageddon, and everybody is dead, apparently. But the weird thing about it is this terminal building, it's unaffected, but in front of it, everything is Armageddon. But what you see is thousands and thousands of people, no baggage, all dressed up in their like Sunday best, with their umbrellas, like they're tourists, all arriving seemingly from this terminal building to what it appears to be is repopulating. Okay, there's something really weird going on with that cubicle as well. It's in an opposite direction. So here they all are, all dressed in black, just arrived. Good morning. They all seem to have a predestination. They seem to know where they're going, but how did they get their clothes so clean? Why are they not alarmed by the surroundings of Armageddon?
No one's running, it seems like. I mean, no one's running.
Man, they're just calm. Everyone just knows where they're going, Sean. It's just the weirdest thing, and it's spooky as well to think that, you know, nobody's crying, nobody's... Look at these two, dressed up to the nines. They got no bags.
Armageddon behind them, I guess not.
Armageddon. Does this really fit the MO for Armageddon? Thousands supposed to have died. This is supposed to be, you know, the worst event in American history. An entire city of, you know, getting up for 1 million people is wiped off the face of the earth. Yeah? San Francisco, for fuck's sake. It just makes... And it's that. From that, what we just showed, this is exactly the same street 2 days later, they tell us. I think it's the other way around. I think this world was shattered. They just rebuilt it and fitted it all out again. And these are the new arrivals. is so spooky. It really feels weird. There's something off with it all. It feels super wrong for an American city, and it's not an isolated case, because you name it, Chicago had the same thing.
Yeah, the Chicago fire. I always talk about it.
Seattle had the same thing. Both.
Yeah, they burned. They tried to get rid of all the evidence of the history before us, because they were way more advanced than us. They wanted to build the next generation of stupid people, and they took over education. They took over
one-room schoolrooms, and all of the libraries of that period were reopened by Andrew Carnegie Esquire. So Carnegie.